Welcome everyone. On this session, I will want to speak about Python list. Right. So let's just jump into it. This will be session number 10 for us, and we're speaking about list. Now, on Python list, a list is just it's a group of values that containing basically the same type. There are very rare cases wherein they are not containing the same data type. So if I can just go and say I have a list here called my list. Let me just create a nice variable name, my list, and then for me to identify that this is a list, you need to put these square brackets, right? This makes sure that this is a list. So you can have a list of names of people, right? Like countries. So I can have a list of USA, where I am from, Republic of South Africa. We can have more, Republic of Zimbabwe. Most of those things. We can have more, a list of a couple of countries, a list of fruits. You can have a list of fruits. You can have my list 2. In fact, let's call this my list 1. Just giving you example of how a list will look like in Python. So we can have a list of fruits. We can have oranges. We can have apples. We can also have bananas. We can have a lot of this list. We can have a list of numbers as well. List of numbers. So my list, in fact, I don't like starting with caps, so my list, this will be list number 3, and this one will contain numbers. So I can have all the even numbers. I can say 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. So this becomes a list of numbers. I can have a list of other things as well, a list of characters. My list, this will be list number 4, and then the only way to identify it's a list, it must have square brackets. And then if it's a list of characters, maybe I can say I've got A, maybe it's all vowels, E, O, they are not in the correct order, but I think this is all the vowels you can find in the 26-letter alphabet. So, and you can easily go and manipulate this list and say, show me the values which are found, or print me my list number 1, right? You can already anticipate what will be shown on the screen. If we say my list number 1, it prints those list of countries abbreviations that are at the top there. And then you can go ahead and say print for me my list number 2, and it should give you the other results as well. Very easy to manipulate the list, and I'm hoping you're able to understand these things. These are very simple things. Now, lists are also regarded as arrays, right? Meaning they also have accessibility via indexes. So if you want to access them, you can use the indexes to access them, right? The other things is that the list will allow what we call duplicates. So you can have, let's say for example, on list of fruits, you can have another set of apples here, the same ones that you have there, and then you go ahead and say print for me my list. I think it's list number 3. Maybe before we even print list number 3, let's go check if ever, before we add this one, let's go check if ever it will print only 3. There we go. So you can see in fact it's list number 2. So let's go ahead and hit list number 2. You can see there are only 3 fruits there, right? And then from there you can then paste apples again and see if it will be able to duplicate. let's print now. You can see it was able to duplicate apples. Apples are appearing twice. So each individual item here it's regarded as unique by default, right? You can go ahead and do other list functionality, which will make sure that there are no duplicates. But by default, it comes with functionality to make sure that it allows duplicate within your list, right? Then you can also go find the length of a particular list, right? And then that length will be determined by how many items are in the list. So let's say, for example, you want to print, you want to find the length of, just remove this one. Let's say you want to find the length. So you will say length, the same way we'll find the length of a certain string. You can go find the length of, let's pick my list 2, which is the set of fruits. Let's find out how many. So you will see that it picks up 4 items inside that list. Okay. So there are other functionalities that you can play around. You can have a list of Boolean values as well, list of any kind of data type. Also, you can have a list that does not contain only one type. For example, you can have, let's call it special list. I did say that this is very rare, and you must find out why is it happening like that. So now you could then go and say I have a list which contains a number called 3 and then a string called USA, and then you could have another item here. Let's say you then have a floating number. Let's say it's 5.5. This can be a very valid list, and then you have maybe a Boolean value. Let's say last one is true. So if you check on this list, it has got 4 different kind of data type. They've got integers, they've got strings, they've got floating numbers, they've got Boolean values. So this is still a list, and you can go and print out this list also and say print out my list. We're going to call it special list, and it should print all of those values for you, right? So it does not, it's not limited to say like an array wherein you're only allowed to have only one type of data being stored. Here you can store different kind of data. You can store integers, interchangeably, so you don't have to be saying there's already an integer, so all numbers must be in integers, and then you can interchange them as you go. Okay, you can also find the data type of a certain list, right? So let's try this out. We can say go find us the data type which was being used on. So we'll say print out the type, and you should have seen this when you're dealing with variables. Print us the type on my list number 3. Now list number 3 is this one which contains only integer numbers. So if I say type for list number 3, you can see that when it verifies, it finds that on that list it's finding it as a what? As a list type. So list is also a different kind of a data type that it must be considered that way. Okay, and then there could be what we call a constructor that you can use. When we are dealing with functions, we'll get to this later on to make sure that we're able to create a constructor for ourselves. But a constructor simply means that when you are creating your own list, let's say we're going to create a list called constructed list, and then this list will be then equals to, then you must mention that the keyword called list, and you must put double brackets now, right? It's no longer those square brackets that you were seeing. Now it's double brackets, and within these double brackets, that's where you'll put your list values, right? So we can say this is name of people. You can put names of people here. There we go. Right. So now if I go now and say this is another way to create a list when we're dealing with classes later on. when we're doing with constructors. We'll use these to create objects of our class. So now, if we wanted to print this list, we'll just have to print the constructed list, and it should be able to show us the value which are found inside the constructed list. So this is also a list because we did mention the keyword list when we were creating it. Okay, so that sort of covers it for for the first part on list. The second part now is how do you go and access items of the list, right? It's very simple, it's nothing difficult. So within the list that we have so far, how can we go and access items, individual items within our list? So we'll do the same thing. As I told you, you must now treat it as an array. So if we're dealing with my first list, which is list number 1, you can then put those array identification, and as I said, you are if you are dealing with array identification, you start accessing items of the list from index number 0. So you can see if I go my list index number 0, it picks up USA, and then if I change to 1, it will then pick up what? Republic of South Africa. The same way, if I pick 2, it will pick the next item, which is that Republic of Zimbabwe as well. Okay, so that is how you can access what? A certain list. So let's say maybe you want to print the last item in the list. There is a small keyword you can use to print the very last item on the list. So you can go and say print. This time around, let's focus on my list number 4. So I'll go and say my list number 4, which is this one containing all the vowels. If I say I'm trying to access the very last item, which is -1. -1 means I'm starting from that other side. So if I navigate to this, you can see it picks up the letter U from that list. Okay, very simple to navigate. And then if you just change the number there to say -2, you can see it now goes to what? To I, and then -3, you will now arrive at what? At the letter O, right? So also 2 also produce you what? The letter O, right? So you must just remember when you are dealing with a list or treating it as an array, if you are moving to this direction, which is from left to right, you are dealing with positive numbers. If you are moving from right to left, you will be dealing with negative numbers, and then -1 becomes the first one as you go like that. Okay, so the other thing you can do what we talked about, or when we're accessing strings, you can do a subset, right? Meaning you can go and select specific things within your list. So for example, if I say I want to pick up from index 0, you can pick up from index 0 all the way to index number 1 and see what kind of results do you get. So you get only the letter A. Remember, this last number is not considered, it's not included. So if you want it to be included, you must put 2 so that it prints you A and E, right? So that is the subset, and I'm sure we've talked about subset before. This is just to say I only want to focus, show me the results between this and this, the last number not being included and the first one being included. So if we were to deal with maybe this one, which is my list number 2, let me just change here to make sure I'm accessing my list number 2. I can say let's say I only want banana and apples. So if I want banana and apples, I'll start at number 2 and then I will end let's see, where am I supposed to end? Let me leave it like that. There we go. I don't specify the ending part, but you must just remember that this means that it's endless. So if there were more of these bananas and oranges and what, well, let's just extend them in the same list and see if ever it will display the result. So you see, even if there are more, it will still show us all the items that are there because I did not specify where I'm ending. So this means that I'm ending at the very last point, right? But then that means also if I want the beginning, for from the beginning to a certain point. I can say from I don't specify the point, and I say only stop at number 3. So number 3 will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 3 not included, so I'll end at bananas. There we go. Okay, so that is a little bit on accessing the list as we've spoken about this. So let's go now to can we make changes to the list item? Yes, you are allowed to make changes to the list item. You can make as many changes as you want, the same way we have been trying to print out. So let me reduce my list here so that we are able to work with it. So just want to make sure we are able to work with this list. Oranges, apples. There we go. Oranges, apples, bananas, and more apples. So let's say we want to replace the last apple to be, berries. So what I will do, I'll say my list number 2, and then at position, I must find the position where apples is sitting at. So the position that apples are sitting at, it's number 3. Right? So we can go ahead and first confirm if it's really indeed the correct position. So we want to replace the last apple. There we go. So that means that is the correct one. So I will then go and say that means my list number 2 at position 3, I'll want to change apples to become berries. Right? And then now when I print, you will see apple will be replaced, or even if I say show me the whole list, that duplication of apples would have been replaced by berries, right? So basically that's how you could change a certain value within your list. Sometimes you are allowed also to also change 2 values as well, right? So let me show you how you can make changes to 2 values at the same time. So let's say you are changing apples together with bananas with the following value. So you will say, please make changes to the value starting at number, we'll say number 2 all the way to the endless. So what you will then do with this style, that means now you will also create a list this side. Instead of a single value, you will then create a list this side to show that you are making changes to 2 particular things. So there we go. Maybe the first banana. So what you will be changing is bananas, because banana is sitting at number 2 and apples is sitting at the very last position. Apples will still be replaced by berries. So bananas, we can find something for it. We can say this one now, not a fruit. Then you will see when we run this now, just a second, my PC is a bit slow now.